welcome to Tracy Mommy Reads. I am back again with another book review. Without further ado, let's get into it. Today, I am going to be reviewing the Hookup Plan by Farrah Rochon. The Hookup Plan. Love that cover. So, the Hookup Plan, this has been on my list for a minute. And as you probably can tell by the last few reviews, well, probably more than a few, I have so many books that I have either reserved from the library, that I've gotten on my Kindle, or that I'm trying to get before I maybe get rid of my unlimited subscription. So a lot of the books that I have been reviewing lately have been on my handy dandy Kindle Fire, which, I mean, it's amazing, don't get me wrong. But I don't know, I think I may need to upgrade. This one is probably over 5 or 6 years old. But the thing I love about the Kindle is that also through the app, everything is like connected. So like if I'm on my phone and, you know, like I don't have, let's say I don't have Wi-Fi, or I forget my Kindle, or I'm sitting in the car or something, there's a Kindle app that I can, you know, hit the app and open it up, and it has all the same books that are in my library from the actual Kindle device, and it will hold your pages between devices. So if I stop on page 150 on the device, when I go to the app, it will say, do you want to pick up reading from page 150? So that, I think that's cool. You know, I'm totally off track, but I just thought about it when I picked up the Kindle yet again. I'm like, I've been doing a lot of reviews on my Kindle. So anyway, the Hookup Plan. So the Hookup Plan is in the romance genre, and I think it's kind of touted as an enemies to lovers type book, but I don't know what you call it when the enemies thing is only one-sided. You know how like people think like that you don't like them because they don't like you, or maybe that's why they don't like you, because they thought you didn't like them, or they have some superficial or crazy reason for not liking you that has nothing to do with you. But maybe you actually like them, you know, just haven't really had a chance to get to know them. And that's kind of more of what is happening here in this story. So, something else that I have to take a sidebar here and say, I'm in the throes of helping to plan a 35-year reunion for my graduating high school class. So it's always weird to say the 35th reunion, because that would imply that every year you've had a reunion, and we have not. It's been 35 years since we graduated high school. So we're having a reunion to commemorate that. And in this book, the opening pages, they are at a class reunion, although it's only their 15th class reunion. They're young. But the thing that is so wild is that their high school is the exact same name as the high school that I graduated from. So for us to be in the preparations for this reunion, which is in June, and then to start reading a book that takes place at a high school reunion, and they have the same name, and it's not even a common name, not as far as I thought. The name of our high school was Barbara Jordan High School for Careers, but Barbara Jordan, she was born in Houston, and she was a U.S. House of Representatives member of you know, Congress for Texas. So even though she, you know, excelled to a higher level of life, obviously, she's from our city. And so the book also, it takes place in Texas, but they're in Austin. So the school is in Austin, Texas. But I just thought that was kind of like a weird little, you know, interesting, creepy-ish coincidence, given the fact that I'm kind of like at this point right now and dealing with all this stuff with a reunion for Barbara Jordan, and to keep reading that in the book to see that school name, it was kind of discombobulating at times. So anyway, I'm sorry I keep getting off track, but the main characters are London and Drew. They reconnect at their high school reunion, and London has always had this like thing against Drew. Like she's always, you know, held on to this indignation and low-key, like, I guess, anger at him because she saw him as a rival in high school, because he came to their school. She had been there all 4 years. He came to their school like in his junior year. And up until that point, she was top of the class with the grades, with popularity, being in clubs and all this kind of stuff. He settled in right beside her, making her number 2 at some spots, back to 1, then they would tie. They were even co-valedictorians because their GPAs were the exact same. So she was highly annoyed. And as the story goes on and, after the reunion and all that stuff, we come to learn the reason why she was so angry is because it was important to her to keep that top spot, because she felt that was the only way her dad would give her any attention. Because, when she was number 1 in her class, or she got all A's or the A plus, her dad, who was like an esteemed attorney, I believe he was an attorney, he would brag about her. And that was the only time she really got any attention from him, because he was always busy working or off doing whatever or whoever. So, when this other kid comes along and, he's getting the A pluses or getting all the attention, then it kind of took away her attention, from her dad. So that's really what she was really mad about, because she didn't really know him. And then, of course, the other side of that, he was doing it to keep up with her because he had a crush on her. So, like I said, we learn all this as we go through the story. And it's important to mention because initially there's all this tension, but as you could imagine, in most stories like this, where it is a romance and enemies to lovers, they actually have to become lovers, right? At some point, they have to enter into some type of relationship. And that ends up with what happens between London and Drew. London actually still lives in Texas. She lives in Austin and works at, the Travis County Hospital. But Drew is in town for business. And that's why, he was at the reunion. He lives in New York. He's no longer in Texas. However, after reunion hookup, after some alcohol was involved and things like that, she's thinking, okay, fine, whatever, it was good or whatever, but I'll never see him again in my life, and I don't like him anyway, so that was just a one-night stand. That's over with. Well, there had been talk about the county hospital closing down if they couldn't kind of get their finances where they needed to be. So they had hired this auditing firm to come in, a health management firm to come in and kind of tell them, where their deficiencies were and what they needed to do to kind of get their shit together. So the company they hired is actually Drew's company. So when she goes to work the next day and they're like, come in here, meet the team of people who are going to be helping us, there's Drew, and all that time they spent, like the night before or the day before, I can't remember, it was maybe a couple of days before, because I think this happened on the weekend and this was the following week. He never mentioned that he would be working at her hospital, but he knew he was going to be working there because he knew where she worked. And she knew he had like a business, but she really didn't kind of understand, I guess, what he did. So that made her even more furious, as you can imagine. So there's like this tension, between them, not only from her initially holding on to all this stuff from like high school, but now, this thing happened between us. You didn't even mention it. You're here to potentially ruin my career, because she's a doctor at the hospital. I don't know if I mentioned that. You're here to potentially ruin my career and shut down this hospital. So the claws really come out, and she's like, I hate you. I hate you. But in true romance book fashion, that hate is just like an emotion being outwardly expressed for this underlying passion. Because even though, she was like saying that she couldn't stand him, I mean, look at the title, The Hookup Plan. They still decided while he was in town that they were going to have the brief affair, not talk about it at work, not even act like they know each other. But as we all know, at some point, feelings and the lines, everything's going to get blurred, and you're not going to be able to just keep up a farce like that unless you are just two totally like unfeeling people, or two people who really never see each other. There's like a straight barrier. Maybe the other person lives in another state or another city, and y'all just come together once a month or whatever. But when you're seeing somebody every day, and you're talking to them and you're getting to know them essentially for the first time, I mean, that physical attraction is going to turn into more, as it did in the Hookup Plan. But overall, like, I like the premise. It's been a while since I've read like a romance book like this. Like, it's kind of the contemporary fiction vein, and these are kind of the books I started out writing, and books that the only kind of books I used to read. So it was kind of refreshing to get back to that, because there are so many books out there like in the romance genre that have, I don't know, they've just kind of left a bad taste in my mouth with the characters and some of the subject matter, you know, and I'm always looking for higher stakes. So to have a little tension between these characters, to kind of not know where it was going to totally end up, you know, it made it entertaining and made it worthwhile to continue reading. It wasn't, I mean, it was predictable in that there's a formula here. We know how these books end, but I also felt there was just enough to keep me like, okay, what's going to happen? Like, are they going to get together? Or, oh my God, they're going to their first date. Oh my God, he asked her to do this, or she asked him to do that. So those moments were appreciated in the book, and weren't as formulaic as maybe in some other books that I've read. And of course, no romance book would be complete without some steamy scenes. And at first I was like a little annoyed, because their first night together, like at the hotel, it was kind of like a fade to black moment. But the author made up for it further in the book. And I guess because the book, given the nature of the book, you know, being the hookup plan, and that's what they were, like, kind of, you know, like friends with benefits or frenemies with benefits, I guess the whole book would be like having scenes like that if you didn't at some point, you know, kind of fade some of them out so that you can build substance with the plot and with the characters. But, you know, she made up for it in other chapters. So just keep in mind, there are some steamy scenes in the book. The Hookup Plan is actually a part of a series, and not a series in that there's going to be a continuation, or there wasn't a happily ever after, or something like that. In the book, London has two really good friends, and Farrah Rochon has written books about their individual stories. So apparently the three of them at some point met because they were dating the same guy, right? And they all ended up becoming really, really good friends, I guess, in their attempt to like get back at him. So this was London's story, but the other two friends, they have their own books that Farrah Rochon has written. And there's just like, I guess, some intermingling or mentions of each other, since they're, you know, friends in all the books. But I think they all still are kind of like standalones. I don't think you have to read the next book or the book before that to kind of know what's going on, because she provides more than enough kind of detail and information in this book, at least. So I would imagine it's the same in the other books. After having read so many suspense and mystery thriller type books, I'm still always looking for that thing, you know, where there's like some big thing at stake. And I was really kind of pleasantly surprised, I guess, that there wasn't this big, like, you know, a lot of romance tropes, that there's this big misunderstanding that happens, and then, you know, one of the people have to go and try to win the other person back. And it wasn't necessarily the case here. So I don't know. I feel like it was a good thing, but then at the same time, it's like there were no real stakes. I mean, there was an idea that maybe she was going to accept a job somewhere else that could have affected their relationship. But all in all, I mean, it was worked through relatively quickly. So if you're someone that is looking for like high stakes in a book or something like that, then this isn't going to be the book for you, okay? But if you're looking for a book that's a quick read, you know, it's kind of fast paced, a book with characters with great chemistry, some steamy scenes, witty dialogue, and, you know, a nice, satisfied ending with a little happily ever after, then the Hookup Plan is for you. That is going to be exactly what you get in this book. The only thing I didn't like about the book was, you know, London had issues with her dad, and he had another family, right? And she got along with them, you know, she spent time with her, you know, siblings or whatever. They were much younger than her. And even her mom and the woman that his dad married, I think that was his third marriage though, you know, they were like besties or whatever. But I didn't like how some of the decisions that London made, she considered those kids. Like, they had a whole mom and dad. Like, I felt like that wasn't her responsibility. I mean, I can understand you maybe wanting to be there for them because they were so young and maybe having a relationship with them. But ultimately, I don't like how, like, a decision that she made, she, like, had them as part of her reason for doing what she did, because she felt like they needed her and they needed her guidance. I mean, that's up to their parents, really. I feel like, I mean, I could, like I said, I can understand her, like, I guess maybe it would have been on her conscience if something bad happened and she wasn't there to maybe guide them or be there for them when they needed, you know, an outlet or somebody else. But that just kind of annoyed me a little bit. So yeah, so I don't know that I'm going to read the other two character stories. One of them is like, I think, a fake romance, and the other one I can't remember like what kind of trope it was. But you know, I feel like I've gotten enough information about who they are, how they ended up in their relationships, just from reading the Hookup Plan. But it would be cool, like, if there was like some epilogue or something that showed us more of like Drew and London's story, like maybe a glimpse into their lives in the future, like a 20th year class reunion that shows like where they are now versus when they kind of hooked up 5 years prior. But I guess I'll just have to be satisfied with what Farrah Rochon gave us in this book, The Hookup Plan. As far as a rating goes, I mean, for the writing, the characterization, you know, the imagery, the plot and everything, I feel like it's a solid romance book, you know? I feel like it's solid. I mean, part of me wants to give it a 4. But again, because there were no stakes or anything, it's just kind of like a feel-good, you know, little fluff read. It was good in that respect. So I would give it 4 stars based on that. So I'm just gonna do it. I'm gonna give it 4 stars just based on the genre and what to expect from books in that genre. So yeah, I'm still waiting on my 5-star read this year. I haven't had it yet. Anyway, if you have read The Hookup Plan, I would love to know your thoughts. Let me know in the comments what you thought about the book. And if you have some suggestions on a book that I may give 5 stars as we come to the, you know, halfway point of the year, leave that in the comments as well. Thank you so much for watching, and make sure you like this video. And y'all, we are closing in on 700 subscribers. We're like at 650 something. And you know, my goal for the end of the year, I want to get to 1,000. You can help make that happen. Come on, go ahead, hit that subscribe button and that post notification bell so that you can be notified whenever I post a video. Thanks again, and you guys enjoy the rest of your week. Bye.